All right, Colleen here, and I'm with my friend Pat Kauffman. He is an amp tech in Brooklyn, New York, and we're here at his repair shop. Tell me about the work that you do here.
So I repair primarily vacuum tube equipment. I've been here in Brooklyn since 2000. I started when I was very young, 21 years old. I started working professionally fixing
Wow.
amps. And we do a lot of volume here. So it's vintage guitar amps, new guitar amps, and we do a lot of tube hi-fi. But I don't really do any solid state anymore. There's just been so much work coming in that I'm kind of limiting my intake to just tube gear and preferably vintage tube gear. I occasionally do some radios for people, some CBs, some vintage radios,
Cool.
amateur radio gear, but I've really had to scale that back. So primarily, the meat and potatoes here is guitar amps.
Cool.
Yeah.
How many hi-fi amps would you say you service in a month?
In a month, on a busy month, maybe 6 to 10.
Cool.
Yeah, right now there's a couple in here.
That's awesome that
Yeah,
you do both
yeah,
tube guitar amps and hi-fi
yeah. It keeps you
amps.
fresh.
Yeah. Okay, so your slogan is remember music. I love that, and I think that resonates with all
Hmm.
of us.
Hmm.
Like, we all love music. That's why such a big part of our lives. So tell me, like, where that came from, what inspired that.
Yeah, well, we're trying to think of a slogan for the T-shirt, and actually, Tony has a guitar shop here in the same room, Precision Guitar, and we were just shooting it, and we were going like, "Remember good vinyl records, remember," and he's like, "Remember music, man," and I'm like, "Remember music, that's the T-shirt.
That's
Remember
it.
music."
Yeah,
And that, because in the end of the day, it's not about the gear, it's about the music. You can get awesome, cool tones, through a lunchbox. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
These are just tools. I mean, I have my preference, but these are just tools to making music and art. And so remember music is sort of like,
I love it. I'm here in New York because we're teaching a guitar amp build class. We have 11
11
students,
students.
and each one is building their very own Fender Tweed 5E3 Deluxe. We're having a blast because all these students love music,
Hmm.
and they're here because they love guitar, they love guitar sounds
Yeah.
and tube amps, and it's really exciting to see everybody build their own. Everybody's doing a really great
Yeah,
job.
everyone is doing a fantastic job. And it's a 3 day class. We just finished the second day. We're pretty tired, and the shop is a mess.
But we
Um,
couldn't miss the opportunity to sit
yeah.
down and talk. Okay, so tell me about how you got started in this field.
Yeah, so I got started in this field. Um, I was pretty young, like third, fourth grade. I got really interested and obsessed with vacuum tube radios. Um, I don't know if anyone can tell,
Yeah.
but so I
You have
started.
a few.
I have a few. So I started collecting radios. This one here I got when I was probably in like fifth grade. I probably have like 150 of them.
Wow. They're all
Um,
in such great shape too.
yeah. So I was kind of a weird kid, and that was just my thing, like tube radios. I didn't really know how to fix them or service them or anything. I started to one or two, maybe I was able to like change caps that were humming or something, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really know what I was doing.
But you like to tinker with
Yeah, I
them
would tinker
and
with them. And then in high school, or yeah, in high school, I got really into music and playing guitar, and like then it was like the guitar bug hit me. So I was like, wait a minute, like everyone's playing tube amps and getting these awesome sounds, and I'm weirdly obsessed with vacuum tubes. So it just became like a natural marriage to get into this.
cool.
And I started fixing guitar amps on the side when I was in high school. I worked at a TV repair shop in Keyport, New Jersey called J&J Electronics, and he did televisions and a lot of VCRs and stereos. And he taught me a lot about electronics. And then I went to DeVry trade school to learn, basically become an electronics technician. So I
Cool.
have my ET there. It was like 19, 18 months. So I learned a trade. I moved to New York at 21 and started working at Main Drag in Brooklyn at that age. And at that time, there wasn't as it was Brooklyn was still kind of the Wild West,
Yeah.
so there wasn't that much work right away. So I had a full time job fixing copy machines, and then after 4 years, I quit that, and then this became full time.
So I know when you were fixing copy machines, you met your wife, Kelly. I love
I sure did.
the tie
Yeah.
that you have with servicing electronics
Hmm.
and your family, your
Hmm.
future.
Yep.
It's beautiful. Tell us about that.
Well, I worked for this company, Ose. They were a Dutch company. They were a very big company, and they made these big, high volume industrial copiers. And one morning, I went in to repair a machine, and there was this woman, beautiful, gorgeous woman, sitting right next to the copier. And I fell in love instantly, like lightning, just like, and I knew like psychic energy
Yeah.
that she was the one.
Yeah.
And so what I used to do, so I can see her all the time, is I'd make sure the machine would break down all the time. So I put an error
He
code.
doesn't do this with
Yeah, I
amps.
don't do this with amps. So no OSE managers hit me up. But they would break all the time. The machine ran terribly after that. So I have this code I put in the machine where it would just lock up. So every like 3 or 4 days, it would just like shut down. And I had to come in. I would just reset. I'd act like I was working. So I pulled the whole machine apart. I was like, it was a big machine too. So I'm like down there getting all greasy, pulling out gears and shit. But yeah, I was all BS. And then I put it all together and I just cleared the code, set it to fail in like 4 days. So, okay, see you later. And
I love it.
so that was.
That's one of my favorite love stories.
So I really learned sort of on my own. I got all the books.
Mm-hmm.
And, probably 4 or 5 years in doing this, there was so much volume. I mean, I had a full-time helper. He worked like 50, 60 hours a week. My work schedule was actually 80. I mean, it was literally like 80-hour a week work schedule.
Wow.
And then the owner of the business would help me for like another 20 hours a week. And there were weeks where we cranked 50 tube amps out, 50 repairs in 1 week, 7 days a week. So the average is probably about 35 then.
Wow.
But we were cranking. So I just learned through.
You learned as you went.
Yeah.
You were just kind of like, you found yourself doing what you liked doing as a hobby as a kid, and you pursued it into making it your career.
Yeah. I had it last week. My buddy, who also is an amp tech, John Charette, he called me and he's like, I did the math for you. You did 40,000 guitar amps. I was like, well, don't worry.
He did the numbers.
I did the numbers. You did 40,000. So, all right. Okay.
Well, it shows. So I want to know what you like about Brooklyn. You've been working and living in Brooklyn for so long, and I've probably seen it change a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's changed so much. I mean, we were down at the waterfront before, and that you used to not be able to go down there because there was a pack of wild dogs that would roam it, and it was all abandoned. And now, it's become so expensive, and sadly, most of the musicians don't live in this neighborhood anymore. Mm-hmm. So there really isn't much reason to have a repair business in this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we have a great reputation and relationship with the landlady, which is why we're here.
Yeah, that's great.
It used to be that the people would come close by, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, but now people just come from further in the city for repairs, and even far out in Philly, Boston, people come in. Mm-hmm. But I love Brooklyn. We tried to live outside of Brooklyn, and it didn't work.
It drew you back.
Yeah, it drew us back. I just love it. I love walking. I love walking around and just feeling the energy. Mm-hmm. I love all the mom and pop shops. Again, it is changing, but it's kind of changing everywhere. Yeah. So I'm sure it's changing in Chicago and
in LA, everywhere. Yeah. But I haven't spent much time in Brooklyn, but this week I've spent the most time I ever have, and I can totally feel what you mean by the energy of the neighborhood. The food's great. Like there's just, it feels like you want New York to feel, to me, as somebody who hasn't spent much time here. So I really enjoy it.
We eat well in the shop.
Yeah, lots of good pizza this week. Lots. And pasta. So I want to switch gears and ask you about any guitar amp repair horror stories that you might have.
Horror stories? Well, first thing that comes to mind is Hurricane Sandy. So many people lost their gear in Hurricane Sandy where everything got flooded. Mm-hmm. And everything, we probably had like 70 amps in here that were submerged.
Oh, man.
Some weren't worth fixing. Some we just couldn't fix. A few we tried and were successful. But looking back, that was
that is really any
so
tech's
much gear.
horror
Yeah,
story.
just
Yeah,
being
just
submerged in salt water is not.
yeah.
There's
So
not much you can do.
a lot of corrosion
A lot of
happened.
corrosion, and if I could go back, I probably wouldn't have fixed, maybe the 20 that I did take on. Maybe I would have
Yeah,
only done like
you were
5.
being
I
optimistic
was being
though. You
optimistic. I
want to
wanted to
save.
help. I spent a lot of time and didn't really charge.
Yeah,
I was just trying to be caught up in the moment and be helpful.
yeah.
But it really hurt the city because a lot of things shut down.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't much happening for a couple weeks after that.
Wow.
And other horror stories. Well, part failure now.
Yeah,
We've
that's
talked about
true.
this.
Yeah, tube failure.
Yeah.
Tubes failing.
Oh.
Okay, horror story. Client comes who's about to go on tour. The amp needs new tubes.
Mhm.
You get them a solid pair of 6v6s
Yeah.
for their amp, and then they're on tour the next week, and they say, "Hey, my tube's blew."
Yeah. Yeah, and they're stranded somewhere, and then
Yeah.
they have to find someone to service it, but we don't make the parts.
We don't make the parts, yeah. A lot of people understand that, but it's still never a good feeling when
Yeah.
something that you worked on
Yeah.
fails so quickly. So I know that you have an interest in amateur radio. I'd love to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That's a lot of this equipment.
Yep. Yeah, I really like vintage. Really, vintage only is my thing. I started as a CBer as a kid, so I was really into CB. I still do some CB. I don't have an antenna anymore because now that we're back in the city, I don't have. We were upstate for a minute, and I had all the space in the world to do all kinds of antennas.
So
around maybe 7-8 years ago, I got my ham license. So you need a license to be an amateur radio operator. You don't need a license for CB. And I got really into that, and pretty soon I was built my own what's called a modulator, right? So it's like the audio portion of a transmitter. So I actually built that before I even got my license. I kind of knew what I was going to do, and I synced it up with this transmitter here, this Lysco from the 50s, and I've talked all around the world with this.
What's the farthest place you've reached?
I think Italy.
Wow.
I don't think I actually hit Australia. I think China once, maybe China. I never did a lot of power. Not that you need a lot of power to talk far, but I was just very old school, 40s, 50s kind of thing.
Hank, I've got all these demos that I recorded years ago that I would love to upload, to share and stream. So I decided, why not try out DistroKid? As we know, DistroKid is a service that helps musicians upload their music to all major streaming platforms. The app is so user-friendly. You can upload album art straight from your phone, and it's really easy to input all of the track information, and then you just upload the track, and boom, you're done. Viewers of my channel get 30% off at the link I will post below. It's distrokid.com/VIP/Fazio. So go check it out, get those dusty old demos or your fresh, sparkly new tracks. Whatever it may be, get it uploaded.
All right, so I'm sure we share similar challenges in this line of work, but I want to hear from you what some of your biggest challenges are in this field.
Oh my God, just running a business and paying the bills, really.
Yep.
It's the labor rate here. I charge $125 an hour, but I don't make $125 an hour.
Right. I think that's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Maybe you're charging, per hour, kind of based on what the job is, and sometimes things come up unexpectedly, and
and I don't charge for burning in. And there's the estimate process. So
the diagnosing, the fixing, the assembling, testing,
email the client. Okay, this is what it's going to cost.
Right.
I like to give options too. It's like, okay, it's you really need to change these, filter caps are bulging, but it's working. If money's really tight, you can do this route.
Right.
I highly recommend this route. So I like to give people options.
And sometimes intake ebbs and flows. You could have a really busy month, and then the next month not taking half of what you so it always ebbs and flows.
Order in part, sometimes I had all this hi-fi stuff came in, so I probably I came up with maybe 6 or 7 estimates, and everybody approved. But then I probably had to outlay almost $2,000 and tools and caps.
Right. Buying parts in bulk can be really difficult. Because a lot of the income goes back into the business and just goes to keeping everything running. Parts are getting more expensive.
I find, and I know you do too, find the time to post on Instagram and
Yes,
make
that
YouTube
yes.
content, because that's,
It's a lot of
it
work.
can be fun, but it's a lot of work. And,
Yeah.
and I've lost, sometimes I'll get in a good groove and I'm posting, and then other times
Yeah, by the way, if you haven't already, please check out Pat's YouTube channel. He makes awesome repair videos, and they're great. Modest. So check that out if you haven't already. What kind of music do you like to listen to in the
oh,
shop?
everything, a lot of rock and roll, a lot of soul, just about everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun, and you work alongside Tony, and you guys
Yeah.
both love music,
Yeah.
and it's fun to just kind of see where the mood in
Hmm.
the playlist
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
throughout the day.
Yeah. We change it up, we go through phases.
Hmm.
We'll do a metal phase for like 3 months, and it's fun. Everyone has come into Main Drag, just whoever's worked here. So we are in the back of Main Drag, by the way, I should explain.
Mm.
So we're to have a partnership with Main Drag Music. But over the years, all the people that have worked here have all brought in their own music, whether it's like weird blues or weird folk, or so it's
Yeah.
been so cool to meet so many interesting people
Hmm.
and just kind of vibe off, and see what they're into.
Cool. So I know, it's so awesome how you have experience with pretty much anything that has tubes in it for the most part,
Mm.
you have experience with.
Yeah.
Amateur radio,
Hmm.
old radios, guitar amps.
I like tube power supplies for some reason.
Hmm. And this also includes tube hi-fi
Hmm.
systems. You've
Hmm.
built a number of hi-fi amps that sound insanely good. I was saying earlier, it's like, you think of the story of the three bears. There's with the porridge, too
Oh, yeah,
hot,
yeah, yeah,
too cold,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
right.
just
And I
right.
feel like your hi-fi systems are that perfect
Yeah.
balance of everything that you want when you listen to a record. So I tell us a little bit about your hi-fi
Yeah,
system.
yeah. Well, let's see. I was something I wanted to do for a long time and never had the time. And then I had this. We were living upstate, and I'd commute down here. To be honest, I was kind of living out of the shop. Just
You
that was
gotta
pretty
do it
tough.
sometimes,
Have to
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
And I also took on a part-time job upstate at Rogers High Fidelity. Roger's a brilliant engineer, and he has a fantastic line of hi-fi. So he kind of taught me a lot of. If I had a hi-fi mentor, definitely be him.
Hmm.
He taught me a lot of like hi-fi stuff. And then I was like, man, I really want to start designing the amp. I always wanted to do it. So I kind of designed this amp and everything. And then COVID hit. And it was pretty wild because I remember I drilled the chassis all by hand. And I was going to this paint store, this car paint store, like working on the color, and like everything was shutting down. I
Oh
remember it was
my
like the day everyone
gosh.
was like panicking. And
They were buying toilet paper. You
yeah,
were buying stuff
I'm
for
like,
this
I'm
hi-fi.
gonna have time to build this thing. I need my paint. So
Hmm.
I go to this place up in Middletown, New York, and I'm like, I need to get my paint, but I want to get this paint. And it's like, who can paint this? I was gonna look for a body shop. He's like, all right, go down the railroad tracks, make a right, knock on the door. There's an old guy there. He's like only paints like classic cars and like weird appliances. Like, go to him. So like, sure as shit, I go to him, knock on the door. This old guy comes out. Oh yeah, I can do this. I come back in a week, and like he did a beautiful job.
Yeah,
So
he
I had these
did.
chassis painted with this custom color, and I just put them together. So the engineering work, though, I did build a prototype, and the engineering work I did mostly by ear. Once I kind of had the basic idea, I would try different tubes. I'd probably try like 30 tubes in each
Wow.
stage, and I would just keep fucking with it. And then finally, I did all the hard math and like, okay, do a load line here and kind of tweak the values just right. I just need to be 150K, and I did all the math and build a prototype, and then I built the final products, and yeah, they came out really good.
They came out awesome. What kind of tubes are you using in them?
So the output sessions are KT88s. You can use other stuff. I do like the sound at KT88s for hi-fi. I use a 7N7, which is basically a 6SN7, but it's a Loctral tube, so it's not an octral tube. And then I use this weird tube, RK34. And then for the rectifiers, I use mercury vapor rectifiers. I love how they sound. There's also a switch in the back that you could turn that off so that you don't have to use. You can use solid state rectifiers.
Oh, that's
You can hear
great.
the difference, and you can hear the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the monoblocks have 4 power tubes, and there's actually switches in the back, so you can run it in pentode mode, triode mode, and then a combination of the 2 modes. You actually get the sound quality of pentode mode and triode mode. You reduce some of the overall headroom and wattage, but I think it puts out at that mode about 85 watts, which is plenty loud.
That's still quite powerful.
I mean, I've never even cranked these past 4. It's way too loud. But,
I know that sound obviously does not transfer from in person to through the phone, through the computer, that you will hear it, but I would like you to fire them up and we can hear something on the hi-fi.
Sure can, yeah. All right, we'll take it off standby.
The best is yet to come, and babe, won't it be fine? Best is yet to come, come the day you're mine. Come the day you're mine. I'm gonna teach you to fly. We've only tasted the wine. We're gonna drain the cup dry.
Wow, Pat, that sounded awesome. It's always a treat to listen to music through that.
Yeah. Thank you. When the camera's off, we were talking when I was kind of engineering it. In the beginning, I threw out a lot of theory. I went with my ears, and as a drummer, I just remember and miss the feeling of playing live drums, and just like, there's nothing better than it. And then I was listening, to all kinds of different music, and just finding different tubes. So I tried like so many different tubes in each stage, and to find the best, like, live.
Based on how it made you feel and what you heard.
It felt like I was playing the drums. And then I think the finished product sounds really live in the way music, how you want to hear music.
All right, Pat, thank you so much for talking with me. It's been a real treat. Be sure to follow him on Instagram. His Instagram is Pat Kauffman Electronics, and his YouTube channel is under the same name. It's been awesome being here in Brooklyn and teaching this class and seeing all the awesome amps that you have to repair. He seriously has just a stockpile of some really, really cool amps that he has in his repair queue.
Well, thank you for coming out and helping conjure up these crazy ideas, like getting all these students in one room trying to build a bunch of amps.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel if you didn't kick my ass and told me to get out there.
I mean,
you gave me a lot of encouragement. Thank you.
The world needs to see more people fixing amps, fixing cool stuff, using tubes.
Yes.
And I think that we can both thank Uncle Doug for
our
YouTube inspiration
definitely.
At our very core. Awesome, you guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm sure you'll be seeing more of Pat in the future. So I'll see you next time.